Hello and welcome. I'm Joan Comrie. Today we're going to talk about the division of responsibility. Now that is a term that was coined by Ellen Satter, who is a dietitian. She was out of the near the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where I went to undergrad and graduate school. I'm not sure if she's still there, but she's written several books. One of them is entitled This Child of Mine, Feeding with Love and Good Sense. Absolutely a great read if you have a child that's having some issues with feeding or swallowing. And what her philosophy is that it's the parent's responsibility to provide good-looking, healthy food in a consistent, reasonable manner, like by offering good foods that your child can eat consistently. So not having a rigid breakfast, lunch, and dinner times, but very consistent so the child gets into a routine, because that's really important. Kids like routines, and especially anybody who's having some issues with feeding, a routine is really, really helpful so they know what to expect and when to expect. So as a parent, your responsibility is to offer healthy, yummy, good food. And it's the child's responsibility to eat that food. Okay, that sounds super simple, right? So what do you do if your kid doesn't eat? Well, a couple things. You want to rule out any issues, because our bodies naturally want to eat. And I would venture to say that most of us are trying not to eat as much as we'd really like to eat. I mean, we don't want to overeat, and that's really easy to do. And so why is that not happening with our kids? That's a great question. So first thing that you want to look at is making sure that your child has the skills to chew the food and to swallow it, or even just if it's a puree, that they can swallow it. And so if they don't have the right sensory skills or motor skills, or a combination of the appropriate sensory and motor skills, your child may decide they don't want to eat. If they've had choking episodes, gagging episodes, those are all things that tell us that the skill of that child, for whatever reason, is not enough to deal with the food that they're eating. So first thing you want to do is eliminate those foods that cause gagging, choking, coughing, any of those things. The next thing you want to do is find a feeding therapist, because they can help your child train those skills that are required for chewing healthy foods. Other things that you want to look at: does your child have a tongue tie? Do they have food allergies that may cause them to not want to eat? Did they have reflux currently or as an infant? And that's a baby that's spitting, and sometimes even a happy spitter can have complications with their sensory input, because we know on the studies that reflux can desensitize your throat. So then when a baby's trying to swallow, it may not have the correct timing of what's necessary for swallowing, so that you don't get into any trouble with choking. And even subtle things on a very super sensitive kid can cause a child to not want to eat. There can also be other issues like neurologic issues, sensory issues like autism spectrum or sensory processing disorders. There's a whole variety of reasons that make kids not want to eat, but in general, if your child has no known diagnosis that you're aware of, and they're perfectly fine and healthy, but they don't want to eat, the first easiest thing to look at is to get a feeding evaluation by a speech pathologist that specializes in feeding and swallowing disorders. If that's not available, you can go on our website at feeding.com and take the dysphagia test. That has a bunch of red flags, and if your child hits a lot of those, you might want to get in touch with me for a consult, or like I said, find someone in your community that can help you. Don't just let your kids struggle, because feeding problems don't go away, they just change. So your child's going to be able to figure out a compensatory strategy, but it may not be the best for them, and they may end up having feeding issues somewhere down the road, or they're not absorbing their nutrients, they're constipated. They can have a lot of issues if they're not chewing their food to a safe swallow bolus, and the bolus is the food that goes down your throat. So the division of responsibility: you provide the food, the child's responsibility is to eat it. If that's not happening, please get some help before things get a little worse, because things can get kind of crazy I've been doing this for over 35 years. I see some wild stuff come through my office. You don't want to have that happen to you. It's something that can be rectified if you catch it early enough, and certainly we can change it. It's just a lot easier the sooner you get some help. Hope this was helpful. Thank you for your time. Please feel free to send it to anyone that you think might need some help. That would really be, I would really appreciate that. And please subscribe and like it so you don't miss any of the other videos that I have. Thanks and have a great day.